Who should pay stamp duty? Another story we'll look at this afternoon. The buyer or the seller? It's being suggested that stamp duty should be paid by the seller of the house in order to help first-time buyers. The Yorkshire Building Society has argued that such a move would help first-time buyers save almost £3,800. Londoners could save up to £13,000. A lot of money. Well, joining me now, Jonathan Davis. Jonathan is Hertfordshire-based economist and wealth manager. Jonathan, good afternoon to you. Interesting idea, this.
Well, it's as interesting, if I may say, as the guys on the Titanic moving the deck chairs. First of all, you make the assumption, as if it's a given, that someone should pay this stamp duty tax. It's just another tax. And in this case, it's a tax on people wanting to move home. Well, I don't see why people should have to pay tax to do that. However, it happens. So if instead of the buyer paying £4,000, £8,000, £20,000 tax, the seller had to pay the tax, assuming that someone has to pay this tax, do you think that sellers would be more readily willing to put their properties in the market? No. What they'll do, assuming they do put the property in the market, is they'll put the price up in order to pay the tax. So it doesn't help the buyers at all.
You see, that's what I thought when I saw the story, but I thought, hang on a minute, this is the Yorkshire Building Society. They must know what they're talking about. They deal with money.
Really? So the banks and building societies didn't go up the creek in 2008? And they deal with money, they deal with trillions of money. No, just because they deal with money, and I can tell this from personal experience, it doesn't mean that they are the font of all knowledge.
Okay. So you don't think? I mean, to me as a layman, I thought, well, if I was selling my house, Jonathan, I'm looking at the stamp duty rates, and I looked at it, I was trying to work it out. If I sold my house today, what I'd have to pay as a seller. I thought, well, I'll just up that on the cost anyway, and add a bit extra. So if anyone who wants to buy my house will have to pay a bit more, and it just stops the whole housing cycle moving any further forward.
Indeed, it would slow down the housing market because fewer people would actually put their property on the market in the first place. Look, these do-gooders, all they want to do, in this case the Yorkshire Building Society, they want to flog mortgages. Fair enough, that's their business. There's a drop-off in mortgages, so of course they're concerned for their business. You know, because they're a building society, everyone thinks that they're cuddly. They almost think they're like a charity. You should see the salaries of the chief executives and the senior managers of these building societies. You will realise they are not charities. They are serious businesses. So if they really want to get the volume of mortgages going through the roof, there's a simple strategy. Instead of this dreadful policy, I've been railing against it for 3 years now, help to buy. It is not help to buy, because what it has done, it has helped keep house prices high. Thus, the people that the Yorkshire Building Society say they want to help, the first-time buyers, they are actually being hindered because they have to pay more for the properties to buy. If the building societies want to lend more money, prices need to come down, volume will therefore go up.
Okay. And is it always still about demand? Because apparently the last set of figures I looked at, and these figures vary wildly, Jonathan, for every one house we do manage to build, then we actually have 4 people who need that house. So we've got the ratio completely wrong.
I don't accept whatever statistic you've just quoted from there. I am one of the few people who says this idea that there's a shortage of property, I just don't buy it at all. And I know that sounds strange because anything anyone's ever heard or read says exactly that. We're building too few properties. That's the reason why house prices are high. No, the reason why house prices are high is because lending is easy. And house prices were about to fall over a cliff at the end of 2012, and that is the reason why the then Chancellor George Osborne brought out Help to Buy, which made lending easier And of course, if lending is easier, then people can pay for a property, which means that sellers can keep prices high.
Jonathan, you say lending is still easy. It's not. I mean, surely if you're applying for a mortgage today, it is considerably tougher than it was 10 years ago.
In relation to an analysis of your earnings and the multiple of your earnings, yes, there is a material change there, absolutely. However, the Help to Buy policy is such that the government, in effect, is lending willy-nilly 20% of the price of the property. Without Help to Buy, buyers would not be able to afford the property prices. Therefore, the prices would have to fall. Then the buyers would be able to buy the properties. And all these people who've got these buy-to-let investments, and there are nearly 2 million of them by now, if they saw prices were falling, do you think seriously that most of them would hold on to the properties? No, they'd get rid of them like a shot. In other words, the supply of property would go through the roof. If they ended Help to Buy, prices would fall. We could help the under 35s. But of course, they don't really want to do that. What they really want is to keep house prices high. It helps them personally. I'm talking about the politicians, the bankers, the building society guys. It helps them personally. It helps their businesses as it happens.
Okay.
If house prices fall, they wouldn't have a business. That's why no one else that I know of is saying end Help to Buy, when in fact it's the solution to the problem.
Jonathan, you said a few minutes ago that you don't agree with stamp duty. Who on earth is going to agree with a tax on buying a property? The idea from the Yorkshire Building Society is to switch it from the buyer to the seller. But of course, in the Treasury, they might look at this and go, hang on a minute. Why don't we get both ends to pay for it, the buyer and the seller?
Well, I think you've actually hit the nail on the head. The Treasury, in other words, the government department that raises the money so that the governments can spend the money, their job is to tax us. And they have done a fantastic job of making most people believe that taxes are actually lower than they used to be. No, taxes are not lower, they're just different. And indeed, many will remember that it was just a couple of years ago that stamp duty went through the roof. So that's another example of taxes which are actually rising, and this is what governments do. And do you know what? I wouldn't be surprised to see what you just said, that sellers will have to pay some tax, and you know what? I'll bet the net amount of tax that has to be paid actually goes up.
Jonathan, thank you. Jonathan Davis, Hertfordshire-based economist and wealth manager. Of course, the thing is with stamp duty, it's a very easy tax to collect.